What turns a single mother into the nightmare of a gang of robbers? Sarah Kane, living quietly with her daughter on an isolated Montana farm, seems at first glance just an ordinary woman. But when the intruders knock on her door on a dark night, they have no idea they've chosen the wrong opponent. Sarah was once a Navy SEAL sniper, capable of taking out targets from miles away. Will she tremble and run, or stand and fight to protect the child she loves above all else? And what secret from her past led her to embrace this solitary life? This story will take you on a dramatic journey, where a mother becomes a symbol of courage, with an ending no one sees coming. Subscribe now so you don't miss this thrilling tale, where one woman's bravery becomes every outlaw's worst nightmare, with a finale that will leave you speechless. Sarah Kane was born to fight. Now, she's chosen a life of quiet on her vast spread in Montana's Bitterroot Valley. Every day, at first light, she pulls on her worn flannel shirt, slips into leather boots, and heads out to the fields. Under her strong hands, rows of corn and potato vines flourish, as if they remember the fear she once inspired on the battlefield. She smiles softly when she sees Emily, her 8-year-old daughter, bent over, weeding the rows, the child's clear gaze reminding her of another reason to live: motherhood. To the townsfolk, Sarah is merely a hard-working, solitary single mom who's come to Montana seeking peace. They don't know she was once Hawkeye, a legendary Navy SEAL sniper who could down targets from over a mile away. That title carried horrors: the acrid smell of tobacco smoke, the deafening crack of rifle fire, and silent tears shed under Afghanistan's star-filled skies. 10 years ago, amid arid deserts and jagged peaks, Sarah watched comrades fall beside her. She held her breath, steadied her aim, and sent a single bullet through her scope to save a life. In that moment, pride and torment were born in her heart. Pride that she'd protected her team. Torment for each shot that stole another piece of her soul. When not even a bottle of sedatives could drown the echoes of gunfire in her mind, she left the military. Montana wasn't her first refuge, but it was the only place she found stillness. She bought an abandoned farm, quietly cleared the land, repaired the stables, and rebuilt rotted fences. By day, she works without pause. By night, after Emily drifts off to sleep, Sarah sits on the porch, scanning the pitch-black fields with eyes as sharp as steel. Sometimes she thinks she hears the wind whispering, or is it the past calling her? Emily grows up surrounded by simple tales: how her mother saved an injured horse, how she fixed the windmill by hand, how they shared steaming potato soup and fresh-baked bread at supper. To Emily, Mom is a remarkable hero who talks to horses and handles the tractor like a pro. But she's never heard of the horrors her mother endured. Sarah hides her past behind the sunlit veil of each day, leaving only peace for her daughter. Life in the valley seems gentle on the surface. Yet, beneath its fertile soil, Sarah's memories churn. Some nights, she jolts awake to the whiz of bullets in her ears, heart racing, sweat soaking her back. She rises slowly, surveying the modest wooden room. Emily curled up in bed, sleeping soundly. Sarah exhales, telling herself it was only a nightmare. But her heart still bleeds. Those scars keep her alert. When a pig squeals in the pen, she slings on her vest and holsters her hunting rifle, not because wild hogs are a threat, but because every strange sound triggers that primal sense of danger, like when she once huddled in rocky cover, ducking bullets overhead. Villagers sometimes glimpse her at the forest's edge after dusk, her flashlight sweeping through the branches. They assume she's inspecting the fence, but Sarah is listening to the absolute hush of the night, searching for any sign of the unexpected. Emily often wakes at midnight to find her mother. Sleepily, she whispers, "Mom, I dreamed I flew like an eagle." Sarah gathers her daughter close, brushing away a hidden tear. "Eagles soar high, so will you." The gentle words draw a sleepy smile before Emily drifts off again. Sarah lies beside her, arms wrapped tight, promising herself she'll do anything to keep her safe. At dawn's crow of the rooster, Sarah rises, splashes cold water on her face, then heads to the barn to lead the horse outside. Emily trails behind, eyes shining with excitement. She peppers her mother with questions about the horse, named Storm, who once saved Sarah during an ambush in Kandahar. But Emily only hears that Storm is smart and loyal. For a child, that's magic enough. When Sarah looks at Storm, she remembers the comrades who fell on Afghan soil. She recalls that final shot through her scope and the sharp command she still voiced, "Fall back!" The shot that saved her team, and also the last she ever fired on a mission. From that day on, her heart grew calloused. She viewed life through icy eyes that only the warmth of her daughter's love could ever thaw. Everything appears serene now, yet Sarah never forgets the chaos she once inhabited. She teaches herself to harvest her crops by daylight. Then, come afternoon, she drills at the range to keep her aim steady. She pours her soul into a journal, hoping each written word will someday fade the ghosts of her past. Still, sometimes the thud of footsteps on the old wooden floor makes her startle. She closes her eyes to listen, then realizes it's only Emily, in a half-awake daze, searching for her mother. When Montana shifts, seasons and chilly winds carry golden leaves, Sarah places Emily atop Storm, and they gallop along the hillside. The wind whips through her daughter's hair, and in that moment, Sarah feels reborn. Her mental scars are soothed by a child's laughter and the rhythm of hoofbeats matching her own heartbeat. She turns into a narrow valley where a stream babbles over stones, and they pause. Sunset dyes the water pink, trees cast sparkling reflections. Sarah kneels, dips her hand into the cool flow, and inhales deeply the earthy scent. It reminds her that, however haunting her past, a mother's love is a flame fierce enough to guide her forward. Each morning when Emily coos, "Mom, can we have breakfast now?" Sarah answers with a tender smile. In her heart swells a single longing to protect her child, to nurture the future, and to find true peace. For Sarah, happiness isn't absolute silence. It's the power to confront the darkness within and still behold the brilliant light of dawn. One autumn night, when the chill slipped between every leaf and the whispering wind reminded the world of change, Sarah Kane's farm lay cloaked in silent darkness. Overhead, a thin crescent moon offered only faint, gentle streaks of light on the gray wooden roof. Beneath the pale pines, 3 matte black trucks waited quietly a few miles off. Their headlights extinguished, only the silhouettes of burly men and one imposing figure, Black Wolf, leader of the region's most feared band, moved in the shadows. They'd targeted the little house standing alone amidst cornfields and wild grass. Rumor had it, Sarah kept a fortune from selling land. A widowed woman, living in isolation in Bitterroot Valley, sounded like easy prey. The hushed voices echoed as Black Wolf paced before his truck, his eyes glinting with cruel fire. "Get it done before dawn," he rasped, his voice heavy with menace. The command a chilling declaration of war against the autumn night. But Sarah was anything but unaware. She'd pictured this moment long ago, having overheard strange chatter on the old radio her former comrades accidentally left in the barn. From her second-floor window, she watched the faint shapes inch toward the stables, ready to break through the rotten fence. In the stillness, she felt each heartbeat, slow, deliberate exhalations. She was not afraid. She had endured nights like this in Afghanistan, when rifle blasts rent mountain air. The creak of the wood window as Sarah eased it open bridged her bloody past and the deceptively peaceful present. Below, the ancient wooden box she'd hidden since leaving the service shifted silently. Inside lay her sniper rifle, the relic of Hawkeye she swore never to touch again. But stepping onto the porch, she knew there was no choice. Tonight, she would fight. Outside, the midnight air was crisp against her vest, yet Sarah felt no tremor. She raised the rifle to her shoulder, loading a round with serene precision. In the dense silence, each gust through the eaves reminded her of ambushes past, of targets falling one by one beneath her scope. She inhaled deeply, then exhaled slowly, sharpening her focus. The raiders had just clambered over the fence, rifling through the stables for an entrance to the main house. Black Wolf led with his jagged axe, flashlight beam dancing over the scars, marring his face. He paused, signaled his men, then curled his lip in a sneer. She's surely asleep. Ransack the bedrooms, find the money and withdraw. With that, they split into two groups, each sweeping the darkness with their torches in search of the hidden safe. Sarah waited no longer. She rested the rifle's frame on the windowsill, peered through the scope at the signaling thug, and squeezed the trigger. The shot rang sharp. He dropped dead, flashlight clattering into the abyss. A scream pierced the night. Everyone froze. In the gloom, they glimpsed the next flash of red in their sights. Two more shots cracked in quick succession. The outlaws fell one by one beside the fence. An axe-wielding brute froze, eyes wide as he peered into the thicket, clutching at Sarah's ghostly silhouette. They didn't know where she stood, only that they were under attack from the shadows, in the stillness of an autumn night. Their hearts pounded wildly as panic took hold, and they scattered into the darkness. Sarah exhaled softly. Her eyes never left the scope as she measured every movement in her sights. She knew each shot had to hit home on the first trigger pull. The next target fumbled for his pistol. He looked up, only to be blinded by the flashlight's glare. At that moment, a tear slipped from Sarah's eye. Not from fear, but from the fiery hatred she felt for those who would sow injustice. She squeezed the trigger. The bullet pierced his skull, ending the chaos in an instant. In town, anyone hearing those rapid shots would be horrified. Here, only the wind howled and leaves drifted silently. While the robbers staggered between panic and destruction, Sarah carefully lowered her rifle and wiped the lens clean. She felt no triumph. Her heart remained as cold as mountain stone. Only when she was certain every intruder lay fallen did she relax, gliding down the stairs. In the living room, the oil lamp still burned, powered by the generator. Sarah drew back the curtain and surveyed the ruin. Spent shell casings scattered, muddy footprints on the wooden floor, and dogs barking vehemently in the pen. She knelt beside the ringleader's body, his eyes frozen wide. By the flickering candlelight, she retrieved her military lighter, the last relic she'd brought from Afghanistan, and set fire to the scattered papers, erasing every trace. Then she drew a deep breath, steadying herself amid the aftermath. Seated at the rustic table, Sarah lifted a steaming mug of coffee to her lips. Its warmth spread through her fingers. She listened to her heartbeat, slow and deliberate, determined not to let hate consume her. Tonight, she had fought to protect her home and her beloved child. Emily slept soundly downstairs, unaware of the danger that had passed. Sarah closed her eyes, reminding herself that no matter how haunting the past, she would always choose sacrifice for her daughter's sake. The moon faded, yielding to a pale dawn. On the fields, dewdrops sparkled like scattered gems. Sarah returned her rifle to its wooden box, snapped the lid shut, and quietly climbed into bed. In a fitful sleep, she clutched her pillow and imagined tomorrow. A day when peace would return, and her love for Emily would continue to shine like a guiding candle through every dark night. Heavy footsteps thudded across the wooden porch, echoing through the silent night. Sarah Kane pressed Emily close, feeling her daughter's steady breath against her chest. The pale moonlight spilled through the cracks, illuminating Emily's silky black hair with a ghostly silver sheen. Sarah whispered, warm yet steely, "Mommy will protect you." Without hesitation, she gently laid Emily on the floor and guided her into the secret cellar beneath an old wooden cabinet. The hatch creaked shut, sealing her daughter in safe darkness. Alone on the upper floor, Sarah became a phantom moving among the timber beams. She clipped the old military radio to her ear, tested the signal one last time. No reply, only the wind's soft sigh and the rustle of falling leaves. Beyond the second-floor window, tiny flashlight beams swept across the low fence in 3 coordinated groups around the farm. They probed forward, wary of every step. The breeze carried the scent of damp earth and ripe corn, and another odor, iron and diesel, from the 3 black trucks parked not far off. Sarah paused at the thick pane of glass, inhaling deeply to quell the fluttering anxiety in her chest. Memories of Afghan ambushes flooded back, leaves trembling at the blast wave, muzzle flashes cutting through pitch-black nights, comrades gasping in pain. She saw herself sprawled in a rocky hollow, holding her breath, squeezing the trigger in a life-or-death millisecond. Now, the sounds and shadows of Bitterroot Valley tested that same instinct. Quietly, she drew the leather satchel at her hip, where her sniper rifle lay, the weapon once bound to the name Hawkeye. She stroked the barrel, recalling those moments aligning her scope, feeling her hand quake as she fired fateful rounds. But her face now bore only resolve to protect Emily, no matter the cost. The first raider slipped into the southeast stable, the old wood snapping under his weight, his ragged breath loud in the stillness. Sarah peered through her scope, entered the distance on her display, and locked onto her target. The hulking man crouched over the lock. Her finger found the trigger. A single, crisp shot rang out, and the intruder collapsed, his eyes wide with terror. A scream pierced the night like tearing fabric. The group to the right halted, spinning their flashlights wildly. For a moment, they saw only the silhouette of a slight woman, yet her presence was that of a warrior. Panic set in. They raised their weapons, firing frantic bursts, but only 3 dry pops answered them. 2 more thugs fell to the damp grass, blood blossoming beneath them. Not a groan escaped Sarah's lips. She remained composed. She lowered her rifle, noting the second group was now only yards away. She waited until they paused at the yard's edge, then unleashed her M107. The shot struck a man's shoulder, sending him crashing down. His flashlight clattered against the floor in a jarring clang. The others lunged forward, dragging their comrade's body, retreating in terrified disarray. The last group circled the fuel depot to the west. Black Wolf fell back, barking orders to move quickly into the main house. His growl rumbled, "Hurry up! Don't lose the loot!" He didn't know tonight's spoils would be the poisoned revenge she delivered. a gift no robber ever wanted. Sarah tracked his every movement through her scope, readying her final shot. The moment he stepped into the porch's shadow, a sliver of window light revealed his pale, tormented face. Sarah squeezed the trigger. The round sped like lightning, penetrating his thick sweater and lodging in Black Wolf's chest. He froze, slapping his hand against his wound, eyes vacant with disbelief. His knees buckled. He collapsed with the rifle's echo still ringing. A brief hush fell over the scene. Then the wounded man's moans stained the night red. In that instant, Sarah lowered her rifle, her gaze unfocused through the binocular lens. A hazy mix of brutality and victory washed over her, but she refused to falter. She rested the gun on its stand, wiped the smudge from her optics, and loaded another magazine, braced for whatever might arise. The hidden cellar could shelter Emily, but a soldier's instinct warned her. The night was long, and danger still lurked. Bodies lay scattered across the field. Flashlights lay motionless like mummified pleas for light. Sarah glided down the stairs, her feet barely touching the floor, each step like a dancer on aged wood. She reached the porch's edge, crouched, and listened to the ragged breaths of a survivor dragging himself to flee. She raised her pistol, aimed at his knee, and fired. Silence returned, broken only by wind whispering through the pines. When all fell still, Sarah looked around at the battlefield's start. She checked the weapon cache's maze beneath the stairs, then turned back toward the cellar entrance. Her steps were as light as when she first set foot in Montana, yet her resolve was stronger than ever. She vowed that every bullet, every breath, would be for Emily. The new moon's sliver above would bear witness to a mother's love as unyielding as steel. Sarah closed the cellar door, pressing her hand to the cold stone as if to feel her daughter's heartbeat through the concrete. In the secret darkness, Emily's steady breathing was more comforting than any promise. Sarah sat against the cabinet's back, head resting on the wall, eyes half dreaming, half awake. She had become a warrior once more, but this time her greatest weapons were love and an unbreakable vow to protect her child, no matter what. The farm's peaceful calm transformed in an instant into a battlefield, where gunfire replaced roosters' dawn crow and dogs' nocturnal barks. The silent autumn night, its thin mist stretching across the cornfields, now thrummed with tracer rounds slicing through window gaps and splintered wood flying in all directions. Raiders charged in from three sides, firing at Sarah's two-story cabin as if intent on leveling it. Glass shattered in cascades, rotten beams splintered, creating a suffocating chaos. Sarah Kane wasted no time waiting for the volleys to cease. She glided down the hall, seized her rifle at her hip, and swept past the great wooden table in the living room. She had mastered moving in darkness, seeking advantageous cover to observe while keeping her enemy off balance. Through the back door, she burst into the yard, hurdled towering corn stalks, and eased into a stand of chestnut trees. The Hawkeye sniper quickly acquired his first target. As the first raider rounded the pig pen corner, her barrel was already trained on his chest. A thunderous shot rang out. He flew backward onto the dew-wet ground. Another shot, and the second man, bending to retrieve a fallen shell, fell where he stood. Each round Sarah fired carried the precision and cold efficiency of a consummate professional. Not one shot missed by so much as an inch. The raiders panicked, flashlights sweeping wildly through the towering corn, yet amid the stalks' shifting shadows, they saw only a phantom. Every boot step echoed like a drumbeat in the night, stirring memories of ambushes on Afghanistan's deserts. From the stable's corner, Sarah moved silently, using the old stone wall as her barricade. She raised her rifle, gauged the distance to the second squad advancing on the main house, and steadied her aim. Their pistols' staccato stutters could not reach her, Here, she was sovereign of shadow, with her M24 locked onto her shoulder. One impossibly precise shot felled the flashlight wielder in the small yard. Blood seeped onto the fallen leaves, mingling with the cold mist in a crimson stain. Black Wolf, standing on the front porch steps, realized the gravity of the situation. He bellowed through the wind's howl, "Retreat! Fall back now!" His command crashed like thunder, yet the raiders hesitated. He darted to the roadside, waving his flashlight in frantic signals, struggling to maintain control. Sarah gave them no quarter. She slipped beside the second truck, lined up her shot, and punctured its tire. The hiss of escaping air shredded the night's uneasy quiet. The vehicle careened into a roadside ditch, its wheels spinning, then locking with a metallic grate. The raiders cried out, huddling around their mangled transport like trapped rodents. In that maelstrom, memories of Hellman's scorching sun returned, smoke lingering from gunpowder, comrades slapping her shoulder in encouragement before the charge. She recalled a brother in arms collapsing by the roadside, blood pooling on his shirt, eyes glazed in a final plea. She remembered each shot detonating like a storm, tears misting her scope as she realized every bullet took a piece of her soul. She left the service not out of guilt, but because she understood. The life beyond, her life with Emily, mattered more than any mission. Now, under the pale moon's blue-silver glow, Sarah fought not for country, but for the precious child sheltered beneath the earth. She banished the pain of memory and sought Black Wolf's silhouette. He still waved, hurling taunts into the night. Sarah gradually retreated to the final step, then sprang onto the sloping roof with the grace of a nocturnal bird. The old wooden shingles creaked beneath her feet, but she trusted the height. From this vantage, she commanded the whole scene. Black Wolf looked up, eyes widening as her figure materialized against the sky. She stood tall, small in frame, yet colossal in presence, like an unstoppable storm. Her pistol rested on her shoulder, barrel leveled at him. The wind twisted through the trees as if time itself slowed. A single shot tore through the chill air, striking Black Wolf's shoulder. He pitched forward, tumbling down the steps, eyes frozen in stunned disbelief. His scream echoed throughout the valley. The remaining raiders panicked, dragging their fallen comrade, eyes darting skyward at the roof. Sarah stood unmoving, a steadfast sentinel under the moon's silver wash. She gripped her weapon, permitting no enemy a moment's reprieve. Her heartbeat slowed, each pulse etching her vow to protect Emily until the very end. When the last raider fled, leaving behind a crippled truck and scattered bodies, Sarah remained poised. She drew a deep breath, attuned to her own rhythm as it merged with the rustling leaves and a distant stream's murmur. Under the moon, the world returned to an uncanny tranquility, as though the battle had been nothing but a nightmare. She retrieved her binoculars from her pack and surveyed the valley, ensuring no threat remained. Now the roof became her refuge, a perch from which she gazed at the still sky and thought of Emily, waiting in the secret cellar below. Sarah knew that come dawn, the sun would rise again over fields of golden corn. But tonight, beneath the moonlight, she stood as the silent guardian, one warrior against the dark, sacrificing her past to secure the future. And though war's residue lingered, her maternal love remained the mightiest force, carrying her through every peril. Dawn broke over Bitterroot Valley. Pale pink light washed the distant mountains and the dew-drenched cornfields. The mist thinned, yielding to the first sunbeams that slipped through the pine needles. They brushed against the shingles of Sarah Kane's cabin. Last night's battle felt like a dream, Yet beyond the fields lay the raiders' bodies, shell casings gleaming in the newborn sun. A distant police siren heralded the return of order. Patrol vehicles rolled over the dirt road like a drumbeat of relief. The cruisers halted at the wooden fence. Stern-faced officers in dark blue uniforms disembarked in unison. Sarah watched quietly from her porch step. She had called them the moment the firefight moved toward the stables, using the old military radio that still held a signal. As the police swept the scene, cuffing the dazed survivors, each freeze rang like the final note of last night's chaos. Villagers emerged from the surrounding cabins, curiosity shining in their eyes as they witnessed the strength of the solitary mother they had long considered odd and reserved. Amid the lingering scent of gunpowder, whispers spread. "I never would have guessed Mrs. Kane. She handled it so swiftly." Speculation gave way to admiration. They eyed the spent rifles, the flattened tires, then looked up at Sarah's unwavering silhouette. A steel-clad Jeep rolled slowly into the yard. Its rear door opened to reveal a tall, commanding officer stepping out. His uniform brimmed with medals and the insignia of U.S. Army Command. His presence shifted the air. He strode directly towards Sarah, measured and steady, eyes reflecting both pride and sorrow. The villagers fell silent, parting for these two figures bound by a shared past. He doffed his cap and saluted Sarah with solemn grace. Colonel Marcus Reed, her former commanding officer who had led the SEALs through countless brutal missions, now stood among them. Dew sparkled on his shoulders like the halo of past glories. The crowd watched, breath held, awaiting the revelation that had remained buried for a decade. Colonel Reed's voice, warm and resonant, cut through the hush. "Sarah." He paused, meeting her gaze, then recounted the story few knew. 10 years ago, during an ambush in Kandahar Valley, Sarah's sniper shot had saved an entire unit from encirclement. Her bullet had pierced an enemy vehicle's barrel, disabling the armored driver and clearing a path for her team's retreat. But in that heroic instant, her close friend, Sergeant Elena Morales, fell by her side. Despite Sarah's efforts, she could not save Elena, and that wound haunted her ever since. He continued, "It was that grief, the pain of losing Elena, that drove you from the service, to leave behind SEAL's glory and find peace on this farm. Yet today, you fought to protect what is most precious, your daughter's life." His voice faltered as he produced a deep blue velvet box, unlocking it gently. Inside lay the Medal of Honor, the highest decoration Sarah had once refused, believing herself unworthy at her commendation ceremony. The villagers watched, eyes shifting from doubt to deep respect. Many blinked away tears, realizing that the quiet woman among them had performed the extraordinary, and all to defend her child. Sarah stood in the morning light, silent as she regarded the gleaming medal, feeling its weight in her palm. Emotion welled in her eyes, not from pride, but from the profound bond of comradeship and a mother's love reconnecting her to the past. Suddenly, she bent down to embrace Emily, who had rushed from the cellar, eyes wide as she took in her mother and the colonel. Emily smiled shyly and held out her hand to the medal. "Mommy, did they give this to you?" Sarah returned her daughter's smile, her voice soft. "Yes, because of what I did. But the most important gift is you, my greatest treasure." Emily clambered into her arms, her small arms looping around her mother's neck. The villagers broke into gentle applause, each clap heartfelt. That moment, when a battle-hardened warrior passed her honor to her child, stilled every heart. Colonel Reed nodded his admiration, saluted Sarah once more, then withdrew, leaving mother and daughter in their new peace. Sarah did not pin the medal to her chest. She laid it reverently back in its box and closed the lid. Cradling Emily, she turned to the golden cornfields stretching toward the dawn, inhaling the fresh air of home. The villagers gathered around, offering smiles and hearty congratulations. No longer was she merely the mysterious single mother. She had become the valley's silent hero. Children ran laughing between them. Women nodded in respect. Even the men tipped their heads in genuine reverence. In the glow of morning, Sarah set Emily down gently, slipping a warm knitted jacket around her shoulders and brushing the dew from her hair. Emily tilted her head up, eyes still wide from the night's ordeal, yet brimming with trust. Sarah took her daughter's hand and led her toward the stables, back to the daily work of tending the land and nurturing their future. That dawn in Bitterroot Valley marked more than the end of a chaotic night. It opened a new chapter for Sarah Kane, one of recognition, of community, and a mother's love exalted. The medal in its velvet box was mere proof. The truest treasure lay in Emily's confident gaze and the neighbors' heartfelt smiles, affirming that Sarah had finally found her truest peace. Sarah Kane awoke to dawn light filtering through the second-floor window. Now, the crow of roosters and the whisper of wind through the pines were her allies, replacing the roar of tanks and crackle of comms. Last night's battle had receded into memory, giving way to the tranquil sight of emerald cornfields and trembling leaves greeting the new day. Sarah drew in a deep breath of fresh country air, imprinting that sense of ease on her soul after years steeped in weapons and war's blaze. Here in Bitterroot Valley, ground that had witnessed too many campaigns, Sarah transformed her vast acreage into a haven for hearts hardened by explosions. Beneath the aging tile porch, she set up a circle of benches, warm and inviting. Veterans scarred by combat came not only to flee urban clamor, but to seek something greater, healing of the spirit. They called this place the Peace House, while the locals dubbed Sarah the Valley Guardian, for she protected lives and restored hope to shattered souls. Each morning, she and Emily tended the horses, gentle palominos, feeding and soothing them. Then Sarah led the veterans into a refurbished barn-turned-therapy room, where she hung morale-lifting posters, arranged seats around a large wooden table, and set out steaming ginger tea. She never donned a white coat, nor claimed a doctor's title. She was simply a companion, sharing tales of ambush nights, of remaining calm as comrades fell, of bullets whistling through mountain gaps. Her tone was gentle yet assured, guiding them to release guilt, end night terrors, and banish deep loneliness. Laughter began to bloom on the faces of those old soldiers as they traded awkward memories, misfired sniper shots, distracted mistakes, or playful pranks during downtime. Sarah listened and recorded these stories in a communal journal, forever marking each man's journey back to life. Sometimes, she led them out to the fields, teaching plowing, weeding, harvesting, to reconnect with nature's rhythm, finding peace in each furrow turned and every drop of sweat on a flannel back. The villagers grew ever closer. Those who once eyed Sarah with suspicion now stood beside her, helping mend stables, repaint fences, and re-roof the broken barn. Children darted through the yard, laughing alongside Emily, while elders who once averted their gaze now looked upon her with respect. They teased her as the Valley's General, a name both shying and proud, but Sarah merely smiled, nodded, and brushed stray hair aside as she prepared for the next session with a new veteran. One autumn day, when the maples at the farm's edge blazed gold, a thick-stocked envelope bearing a military seal arrived for Sarah. She accepted it, quietly slid it open, and found Marcus Reed scripted on the invitation's first line. Under a weeping willow, she sat on a bench, Emily playing with wildflowers at her feet, and read the offer to return to service, to train snipers, to pass on battlefield wisdom. For the first time in years, her heart wavered, but in a single moment's clarity, she looked at Emily, giggling as she colored a sketch the veterans had drawn, unaware of her mother's dream of the front lines. Sarah folded the letter, set it gently on her lap, and gazed across the rolling fields, rows of corn, horses nibbling grass, and veterans shoulder-deep in soil planting healing herbs, her new battlefield. Here, she did not pick off enemies, but cultivated trust. She did not peer through scopes to end lives, but pressed her ear to comrades' hearts to give them new chance at life. Amid cicadas droning in the pines and wind chimes tinkling at the porch, Sarah rose, shouldered her old Jeep's supply pack, and slung on her trowel and first aid kit, her weapons of healing. Emily followed, placing her small hand on her mother's flannel sleeve, eyes bright with question. "Where are you going, Mom?" Sarah bent down and whispered, "I'm going to help the gentleman." Those she once saved in Afghanistan later returned, beaming to find their steadfast farm owner still here, ready to offer empathy and hope. Some quietly gifted her a bent medal. Others framed a photograph of mother and child from long ago after a mission, each displayed with honor in the therapy room, reminders that from sorrow springs meaning and strength to be reborn. At night, beneath a star-studded sky like silver velvet, Sarah and Emily sat on the porch sipping warm milk. She wove a tale of Kandahar's autumn, of desert moons, but spun it as a fairy tale, knights defending their realm before returning to a peaceful home. She painted Emily in the desert sky, so her daughter would know that wherever they were, her mother remained the valley guardian, watchful protector in a vast world. Beneath the night's gentle breeze, Sarah slipped her hand into her coat pocket, feeling the sturdy envelope from Marcus. She offered a soft smile. Her true battlefield was not the distant mountain ranges, but this land, where she and Emily would continue to write their story of hope and courage. She smiled, her eyes shining in the darkness. Once a solitary single mother, she had become a symbol of sacrifice and the will to live for countless broken hearts. And though that invitation still waited in her pocket, she knew here, by her daughter's side, among her oldest comrades, was where she truly belonged.